Welcome back. We were considering the holy sites, especially in the Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre, where many of those events related to the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus are connected. And I shared these thoughts with you mainly with the purpose that you will be able to imagine those places when you have the readings, when you think about what happened. From here, I would like you to think about the temple in Jerusalem. I don't want to give too many details to you, but a few things that will help you once again to imagine the holy temple. The history of the temple, all of you know, Solomon built the temple. That is in 1 Kings chapter 6. All the details are there. And it was a huge structure. The Holy of Holies alone was 30 feet by 30 feet by 30 feet. So that itself is so big. And the sanctuary, where the main altar is, where the Levites would receive the offerings, the sanctuary was 60 feet long. Again, the details are in 1 Kings chapter 6. And the walls of the sanctuary were lined with the cedar panels, so that the stones of the wall will not be seen. The cedar panels were carved with various flowers as well as fruits, especially gourd. And many of those panels were real works of art. Many of the panels were overlaid with gold, solid gold. In other words, they stuck gold plates onto those cedar panels. And you can imagine what an amount of gold was there with all that. At one stage in the sanctuary itself, they had 2 grapevine, the creeper climbing up, and they had huge bunches of grapes, all in gold, in solid gold. All that was taken away by these soldiers of Nebuchadnezzar, and when the Jerusalem city was destroyed and the temple was destroyed, all these were taken away. There was a curtain. The curtain was of blue, purple, and crimson. That curtain actually separated the sanctuary from the Holy of Holies. The sanctuary itself was with an altar where the Levites would stand, will receive the gifts, mainly the first offerings, for example, first fruit, or any other thanksgiving offering, all that is received there. The hall of the temple is divided into 2 parts. In front, only the men are allowed. The second half behind, it is called women's court, and the women remain there. Men can come through that one to the men's court. The men's court that is in front. Whereas women should not come to the men's court. Women remain at the back of the temple hall. And the offering boxes are between both the men's court and the women's court. So anybody can come and put the offerings there. That is, to make it very brief, that is the basic structure of the temple in Jerusalem. This temple that was built by Solomon remained till 587 BC, when Jerusalem was destroyed, the temple was destroyed. When the temple was destroyed, and it remained like that for some time, maybe for about 40 years. By that time, the Babylonian exiles began to return. They returned because Darius gave the order, the king gave all the support and financial aid, and he himself, the leaders themselves, appointed 2 people to take care of the reconstruction of the temple, Ezra and Nehemiah, and they started rebuilding the temple. When they began to rebuild the temple, the Samaritans actually offered to help, but the Jewish leaders said, "We don't want your help." They did not accept it, and so the enmity with the Samaritans continued. The Samaritans are actually Jews, but then they are half brothers, let us say, or cousins. And this remained even today. That enmity continues. Remember, in Jesus' time also that was there. To imagine the geography of the Samaritans, please imagine this. Galilee is up in the north, then below that is the Samaritan area, below that is Judea, that is Jerusalem. From Galilee, from Nazareth, for the Jews to come down to Jerusalem, they have to pass through the Samaritan villages. And the Samaritans would not give any cooperation, and sometimes they will even fool them and so on. The other way is to go round and come to Jerusalem. That sometimes happens. Remember when Jesus also went around sometimes, but sometimes he passed through the Samaritan village. All that discussion that Jesus had with the Samaritan woman when she came to draw water, all that is in the Samaritan village. That situation actually made the Jewish life rather miserable, but they always claimed they are superior. When their support and help was rejected by the Jews, they built their rival temple, and they didn't want the temple in Jerusalem to have all those celebrations. Instead, they would compete with Jerusalem and have their own celebrations, and that continued into a kind of an enmity between the 2 groups. With all this, their life, perhaps the life of the religious faith, was really miserable, often tainted by this enmity. The temple had another very important structure that is called menorah, a candle stand with 7 branches. These 7 branches actually made of gold. The menorah, a candle stand, and it was originally completely of solid gold. The menorah had 35 kilograms of gold. The 7 branches were beautiful. The shaft had 4 flowers shaped into bowls, and all this was actually an object of great devotion for the Jews. And in any Jewish house, at the main door on the wall, they would have this menorah, this lampstand, as a symbol, and they will kiss it when they go out, they will kiss it when they return home. That pious act was continued all through their history. Even though the menorah was stolen, was taken away, the Jews continued this devotion. Remember, 35 kilograms of gold. It was carried away by the Roman soldiers when they destroyed the temple in AD 70. And there is a beautiful depiction of this in Rome on that victory tower or victory place, depicting this great event of the Romans carrying away this 35 kilo gold menorah into their places. I'll stop with this today. We will come back, we'll continue with the description of the temple as well as the sacrifices that were regularly offered in the temple in Jerusalem.